9:30. It's 5:30 by 1 o'clock, and it's about to be 5:30 on this one as well. So we will go ahead and call our meeting to order and get going. As our tradition, Archbishop Slater, our fire chaplain, if you'd come forward and lead us in an invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Allow me to take privilege to pray for the council tonight, for the dais, as we go into business. Our Father and our God, we thank you for this moment that we can say thank you. We thank you for the ones that we voted for and we've asked to come forward, and the ones that's even been hired. Father, we pray for strength, courage, and wisdom, Lord. We pray for this day is today, Lord. Even the staff, God. And last but not least, we pray for the constituents of this great city. We pray, Lord, that you touch every person that's under the directives, God. And Father, we thank you. Give us strength to go through the growth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everyone. It has been an incredibly busy few weeks, and I appreciate everybody staying with us, the engagement, the conversations. I know everyone has put a lot of work into really important matters over these last couple of months, last few months now. So with that, let's do a roll call, and then we will get into an agenda. So Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Mayor Gaylor.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones.
Present.
Councilman Boyette.
Present.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Present.
Councilwoman Matthews.
Present.
Councilwoman Weeks.
Present.
Councilman White.
Present. All right, all being present and accounted for, we obviously have a quorum. So we'll move forward with an agenda. So everyone, stick with me here. There are some recommended changes. Mr. Livingston, Ms. Getz, help me out here. So it is recommended that item 710 on the consent agenda be relocated to item 9.2. And the logic for that is pretty simple. The operating budget amendment that's consent agenda item 7.10 is to fund the thing that is discussed in 9.1. So it just makes sense to be able to discuss that right after the fact, assuming that the council's wishes are to move forward with the things in 9.1. So this moves 710 to 9.2. There's also a request to swap 8.2 and 8.1, just to simply do them in opposite order. So to be able to discuss utility fees as 8.1 and then the operating budget ordinance as 8.2. There is a request to handle old business prior to new business. Now this would just simply be council acknowledging that we would be going out of order, which is not a problem as long as everyone acknowledges it and is okay with it. That would allow us to be able to go ahead and have our consultants that are on call to be and Mr. And Jonathan to be able to deliver his before we get into a much meatier discussion. And then lastly, to move item 4.1, an update on Friends of Seymour. Mr. Gerard, who will be delivering that update, is currently stuck in weather-related traffic, and so he has asked if it would be possible to move him to just before the city manager's report, to move him to the end. So leave it titled and numbered as 4.1. Just council acknowledge it. I'll be taking that out of order and doing it just before the city manager's report at the end of the meeting. Madam Clerk, anything else?
No, sir.
Mr. Livingston, anything else? All right. And yeah, so with that, are there any other adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the recommended changes.
All right, is there a second? Motion's been made and properly seconded. We should have a little pop-up here momentarily.
You have one.
Set for me.
sorry, hold on.
All in favor, please raise your hand. We'll keep it moving. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Is that all right, Ms. Getz? All right, perfect. All right, so with that, we will move to item number 4. We'll begin with 4.2, Water Reclamation Facility Project Presentation. Mr. Lewison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. We have 2 brief presentations, one from our Public Utilities Director, Mr. Bert Sherman, who's going to give us a brief overview of some things that happened this weekend and the general status of the plant. We also have Hazen and Sawyer, who's in the process of doing engineering design work for the upgrade and expansion of the water reclamation facility. So I'll set it up with Bert starting off first.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. How are you folks doing today? I'm doing a little bit of presentation of the public utilities aging equipment. Okay. First of all, before I even get started, I just want to commend all the public utility staff that's out there that have been taking care of this equipment for over 40 years. Okay. They have been maintaining this system. This is not only just including the folks at the WRF, the water plant, the compost facility, distribution and collections, and engineering helping out. Those are the folks that are actually behind the scenes in public utilities. One of the things I wanted to just address is that the WRF was significantly the lagoon system was built in the 60s. Okay. We evolved in the 80s into a more elaborate wastewater treatment due to the EPA and state regulations. Okay, from the 80s until present this day, all of our equipment has been updated and state of the art. At this point in time, the last upgrade that we had was in 2003. During those years, I was there for all of it. Okay, all that equipment that was there was abused, not by humans. It was abused by weather. Okay, hurricanes, starting with Fran, Floyd, the plant flooding after Floyd, Matthew and Florence, both of them dumped 15 inches of rain on us in less than 24 hours. That's a lot of water. We pushed 35 million gallons a day through that plant for 2 weeks, and then it slowly progressed down. That's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress for all the equipment that we have at that facility. Just how they explain it to folks is basically, you have a car, okay? It usually lasts 5 to 7 years, correct? I mean, normally, all right? After that, you got it paid for, or after that, you start getting high mileage, and you're starting to throw repairs into that car, and then your family, you start growing a family, you got to get a new car. All right, our equipment is like that at the plant. At a certain point, it ages itself out. We take care of it. We make sure it's running well. But at this point in time, there's a lot of equipment that was built in the 60s that we have out there. It still needs to be replaced. Okay, so I just wanted to build that picture in your minds. One of the pieces of equipment that needs to be replaced is the sand filters. That was 31 years ago that we had those built. Okay, 31 years ago. Today, I am replacing, or not today, but I budget $200,000 a year just to replace the under drain system for one filter. Okay, we shouldn't have to do that. When it was built 15 years ago, I didn't have to do that. Now I have to do that because it's aging out. It is failing. This is one of the lead pieces of equipment that needs to be in our treatment process. To replace all 4 sand filters, that's $12 million. That's estimated. It could be a little bit more. The UV system, it's failing. It started failing 10 years after it was put in. I'm putting in for a grant for 2.4 million gallons through the DSIP program with the Department of Defense. Hopefully we'll get it this year. I mean, I've been putting it in for 3 years trying to get, that's $2.4 million. Our belt filter press, well over 20 years old, 25 years old, running well. Staff has kept up with it. great. We get visitors coming in saying how well that place looks. And it's because of the staff. They know that if they don't take care of it, it's going to hurt them somehow and do put more work into it. So they do take care of that stuff. Both presses, $3 million estimated. Okay, so there's a lot of money that's going into this that needs to be replaced. If we don't do it now, it's gonna hurt us in the long run. You got me for about 3 more years, okay? And after that, I've got to hand this over to somebody else, and I don't want to hand them something that my legacy is not there. I'm like I said, I've been 31 years. I really care about that facility. I care about public utilities and all the staff that works very, very hard for the city of Goldsboro. And to neglect this, it'll be a mistake. So introducing to you guys Hazen and Crowder. They'll be presenting what we so far have done in the design build team. I still want to wait just a second. I forgot to show you guys. This happened on yesterday, on Father's Day. Let's see. That is a 4-inch line coming from the sand filters. That is the discharge from the reject pump station. So when the sand filter picks up all the dirty water, sends it to a pit, and then sends it up to the influence structure, the beginning of the plant. That burst on Sunday. Distribution to the collection team came out, fixed that in about 6 hours. See all that pipe that's going across there? That's all chemical feed lines. They had to go through all that to repair that line. If you can see, does this got a laser on it or something?
Yeah.
Or is it this one? See that little hole right there? That's a cast iron pipe. It's crusted, it's got a hole in it, and it's ready to, they said it was ready to just collapse. They came out and repaired it. So if that line's doing that now, it's probably going to be doing it somewhere else in the near future. We're expecting it. We're looking for it. So these are the things that a lot of folks don't understand what we go through on a day-to-day basis with all this equipment. I had a few of you folks come out and visit. I would really love to have the rest of you come out and visit. I know some of you have been out there. But if you want to do it on a Saturday, I will definitely give you guys a plant tour of what we've got out there. I like to brag about that plant. I really do. So if you want to, just give me a call and I'll set it up. For no other inductions?
I do have a question, though.
Yes, sir.
Just for my knowledge.
Yes.
So did you have to replace all that PVC?
No, they had to cut that out. That piece right there, that's the piece they cut out.
Right, but I'm saying all the PVC that's over the cast iron pipe?
No, they carefully, they surgically got in there and did it. They're good. They're really good. They knew that facility is like spaghetti down there. And anytime they dig into that place, they're very careful. Because then we would have a lot more mess to deal with. So I just got it, yeah. That just happened Saturday. So, and just saying my piece, so to speak. Any other questions?
Council, any other questions for Bert this time? Obviously, we can ask him to come back up later in the presentation. All right.
Mayor, Council, good to be here. Colin Beck with Hazen and Sawyer. Hazen and Sawyer is the engineer that's part of the design build team with Crowder and Hazen and Sawyer. Appreciate Matt, Kelly, Jonathan, Burt, and team letting us be here to speak tonight. We've been here, spoke with you guys a couple times, actually been in April of 2024. We appreciate being awarded the project that was put out, RFQ, to upgrade and expand the plant. In August of 2024, last year, we came back to talk about the scope of the project and what we may estimate that project to cost. We came and spoke again in January at the council retreat, and then appreciate being back here tonight. So some of this stuff is, some of the information we're going to share tonight will be familiar, but I know you guys are very busy, and we wanted to emphasize some of the points of the project. So just a real quick agenda, project overview, estimated schedule and budget. We're going to talk about funding, and then be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So the project background as it was issued in RFQ had 2 components. The major component was the Arrington Bridge Water Reclamation Facility, but there is a distribution and collections operations center site that's in need of a new building as well. tonight we're just going to focus on the wastewater treatment facility. Project drivers. So Bert spoke really well to the one of the biggest project drivers that exist here, which is replacing and upgrading aging infrastructure. So I put the last two major upgrades were in 1991 and 2003, but Bert mentioned to you that actually the plant, really the first construction of the plant was in 1960. There was also a project in 1980, and there's still equipment from both of those construction projects as well. Some of the aging infrastructure that Bert talked about that needs to be replaced, rehabbed, or rehabbed is the headworks, filters, UV, and the dewatering equipment. Some other drivers for the project are additional sewer capacity to support economic growth. And then there's the North Carolina 8090, DEQ 8090 rules. So I'm actually going to go ahead and flip to the next slide here to talk about the 8090 rule. So what this slide shows is the historical annual average flow at the plant for the past 6 years. So according to North Carolina DEQ, if you hit 80% of your average annual flow, so the plant is permitted for 14.2 MGD, 80% of that is the red line at 11.4. And in 2020, that average annual flow was 78%. It was at 11.2, so that's 78% of that 80%. And at that time, NCDEQ reached out to Goldsboro and let y'all know, hey, if you hit this 80%, you cannot issue any more sewer line extensions for growth because you hit your 80%. In 2021, that flow did actually hit 80%. There was a brief flow moratorium as a result. The utilities department took great strides to help reduce I&I. So kudos to utilities department for doing that. That's awesome. But at some point there's only so much you can do there. So I think that weather definitely has something to do with it, but I also think the strides for I&I help. But as you can see, I mean, there's in any year it's potential that that 80% could be hit again. So the 80/90 rule stipulates that prior to exceeding 80% of the hydraulic treatment capacity, you must submit an approved engineering evaluation of future wastewater treatment needs. So if that hasn't been done, which is, paraphrasing is basically you need an engineer under contract to be designing. At 90%, you need to be starting construction on that project. So so that's how the 80/90 rule plays into as a project driver. Brief recap of the facilities. So the plant already has a permit. So right now the permitted flow is 14.2, but there's on the flow sheet, you can design up to 17.6 without having to do any more water quality modeling. So that was the scope of this project, was to go to 17.6. However, it's extremely important to plan on future phasing, right? Not only do you want to plan for future phasing, it's good to know as much as possible what do you want that future phase to be so that you can make design decisions now that will set you up for the most efficient and cost-effective upgrades in the future. So what you're seeing here is just an overview of the site. This is a very high-level schematic, but in green you see facilities as part of the phase one, we're calling 17.6, that need to be evaluated, rehabbed, and modified. And then the yellow structures are some of the new structures that you would need on site. Actually, you see a bit of green there. That's one of the lagoons that needs to be filled in order to support the construction of a future BNR tank. And then in the dash line, you see a few structures that would be planned for the beyond 17.6 phase 2 expansion. So, I mentioned that we had presented the initial scope back in August, and there was not the funding to support the entire project at that time. So, we spoke with Matt, Kelly, Jonathan, Bert, and team, and with the money that was available, came up with some early start services that you can see over there on the right that we've actually almost completed. We've been trying to make sure that we diligently complete those to inform the rest of the project. Those services included some funding assistance, really assistance with applying for clean water SRF funding, which is really the only loan program that fits for this project criteria. We submitted in the spring 24, fall 24, and also the spring of 25. Unfortunately, the project didn't qualify in spring of 24 or fall 24. We are pending, we'll have a little bit more about this in a minute, but pending results from the spring 25 submission in about a month. We've done some wastewater sampling characterization, floodplain permitting, process and hydraulic modeling, and a very, very high level condition assessment. But as you can see there, those early start services are expected to be complete in June of 25, at which point we could go into the basis of design report and preliminary cost estimate. And really what the basis of design report and the preliminary cost estimate would allow us to do would be the first opportunity that Crowder Hazen has to do enough evaluation to present to the team what the cost, a higher, more detailed cost estimate would be.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. But
no, please.
What date was that? That you would be able to do some more detail?
So as soon as we're done with the early start services, we could go right into detailed design, the basis of design report and the
You could, or are we going to do that? I just want to know.
It depends on, funding. Right now, so I guess to answer your question, right now, Crowder and Hazen are not under contract to do so. Okay. We're only under contract to do the early start services.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. No, please, if you have questions, don't hesitate to stop me. So that would be good because you can see as we move forward, we would go through to 75% design, guaranteed maximum price approval, at which point we would then start, finish design and start construction. Again, this is an estimated schedule. It can be massaged. Those budget estimates are preliminary. You can see the asterisks on the construction. There was a presentation prior to the award of the project to Crowder and Hazen that was given to council in 2024 that gave a range, an estimated cost of $80 million to $140 million.
Just a quick question. So I understand that's a big gap between 80 million and 140 million.
It is.
So is it for inflation, cost of materials? What was?
So part of the reason is defining the scope of work, right? When you go into a project, there's a broad idea of what needs to be done, but need, risk tolerance all factor into what actually does get done, right? Need, tolerance for risk, budget, right? So depending on what budget is, we may say, hey, we just don't have the budget to do everything we want to do. We're going to have to prioritize, and at some point something gets cut out of the project, right? So you're also right, though. I mean, you don't, inflation, depending on how the project is to be delivered. I don't know if at that time it was known that it would be a design build project. In a design bid build scenario where, you have an engineer design it, then you go out for bid. One of the reasons a lot of municipalities are opting to go design bid build these days is because you can sit down and have kind of a more thoughtful discussion on cost. You pick your team, you have a more thoughtful discussion on cost and value engineering than designing it, having a set of plans, hitting the street, and not knowing how many contractors are going to show up on bid day, right? That can be quite a surprise sometimes. So yeah, but I would say really in large part it's scope of work and defining that, and until you dig in and understand exactly what does need to be replaced, at that high level you've really best to give a range and then narrow in from there. If there's no more questions on that, for now we'll just, I think this is the...
I did want to make one comment.
Please.
I think one of the differences, if you compare us to other places like Fuquay Varina, they did theirs, I think their cost was right at 80 million. But that was basically an expansion and not the amount of upgrades and replacement of equipment that we're going to have to do, given that most of our plant is over 30 years old, the major working pieces. So that's one of the big drivers of this cost, isn't as much the expansion as much as it's just as much the replacement of the existing parts.
Well, I do agree with that, and I have studied this to make sure that I'm prepared.
Sure.
But my question is, how do we actually come up with the rate study if we can't nail down actual cost?
Well, it's an estimate, so once we know more about it, then we can, pull back maybe our model some. But until, we're still a year out from it, but we know that we're looking at a minimum of $80 million. So that's a reality that's staring us in the face unless we choose not to do anything, which would,
I don't think that's a choice that any of us would like, not to do anything. It's just that I just want to make sure that,
Okay.
the
Fair
rates
enough.
are fitting.
Absolutely.
And I'm not questioning. I'm questioning it so I can better understand it, that we can get the right fit for the citizens.
Absolutely. And that's really, I went back to this slide because you make a great point, and I just wanted to say at that BODR and preliminary cost estimate phase, you can see the budget estimate there. Again, we don't have a contract, but we would propose about, something about $825,000. And that would allow us to dig deeper into the evaluations and almost give you kind of an idea of, hey, the distribution and collections is about this portion is this, and we might have to phase it, right? It might be that, okay, we need to expand right now, so we're going to do this, or we don't need to do this portion, and we can evaluate better what risks we're willing to take and what priorities we need to, how we need to prioritize.
Yes, ma'am.
So the 120 mil plus that we have for budget estimate, how much of, I see where it says 100% design, and up there is 75% design. So how much of that number, the estimate, would be for the actual design? Because you kind of gave us a broad number at the 11.1. So how much of that is included in that 120 plus?
Absolutely. So the initial $11.1 million, right, is for contractor and engineer fees through 75%. And then in design build, at 75%, there's a guaranteed maximum price that's agreed to. And then we continue on from the design. So we go from 75% to 100%. And then depending on what, typically I would say of a project this size, there would also be engineering services during construction, probably have multiple people on site, 100% of the time, and other people. So we haven't gotten to that yet. It depends on the scope of the project too, right? That's one of the reasons we hesitate to throw out a number until we get to things like the BODR, preliminary cost estimate.
So are we are we really trying to are we actually looking at the scope now, Matt? Are we trying to define the scope of work yet?
So that's basically what they're starting to do, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted, and he'll probably get into that to his slide there. They have started to look at the condition. We had a work session today of the various equipment, that there's a lot of working parts and moving parts in the wastewater treatment plant. And they'll evaluate each one of those and sort of rate it on a condition as to whether or not it warrants replacement or not. So the answer is they've started, but before they can really start going a lot further, they have to go to their BODR, preliminary cost estimate. That's why I felt like this is a good time for them to come and give us an update.
Thanks, Matt. And also I would say, there's there's some other projects in parallel to the project that Crowder and Hazen are working on right now. Another consultant is doing a regionalization study. And then there's also another consultant is working on, helped you all get awarded an AIA grant to do some collection system modeling. And it is important to let, not put the cart before the horse and let those major pieces inform, because if you decide to regionalize, within another municipality, and that contributes a significant portion of flow, you want to be prepared to design your facility based on that understanding.
Council, any other questions? This has been a good conversation. We kind of know what the floor looks like. It's not going to be below these numbers, and then with inflation, it's probably going to be at or above. But this is fantastic conversation because it helps us as well as the public be able to understand exactly where we are, the work that's been going on over the last year and a half, and kind of where we are. So any other questions at this point, Council? All right. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. Really the last thing I just wanted to review with everybody is the funding assistance portion that we've been assisting with. I think I mentioned this briefly on a previous slide, but If there's a regionalization component to this, it actually may help the project score better. As of right now, based on the project criteria, we've applied for and scored all the points that we can, which totaled 38. And the lowest, so in the fall of 24, the last funding round that we have results for, 38 points were applied for and awarded. And you can see under there that 43 was the score of the lowest project that was funded. One of the components that points were lost for was actually the rate for the 5,000 gallon user. So they award points in the application based on how your rate compares to your neighboring municipalities, right? So if you're above the 50th percentile, which in the spring of 24 corresponded to $79 a gallon, or $79 for 5,000 gallons. 89, and then that went up in 89, right? Inflation, so those changed. We don't know when DEQ decides to change those. It could be the same next round, it could be less next round, right? Assuming it is the same in the fall of 25, with a 7.5% rate increase, which is what I understand to be the proposed rate increase for the fiscal year, the the rate would go from 86.11 to 92.57, which would actually put you back in the category of scoring 4 more points on that application, would put you at 42, which again is still below, as you can see, the 43 that was the lowest funded project of last year, but that number changes based on how many applicants you get every year. So it puts you in a more likely scenario to get funded. However, let me remind everybody that it is low interest loans. It's not grant money. There is an opportunity. There's a high possibility that Goldsboro, because of some of the demographic criteria, would get a potential up to $500,000 of principal forgiveness. Anything is great. Obviously, $500,000 probably doesn't sound like a lot when we're talking $120+ million, but anything is good. The rest of it would be at a very low interest rate, and in fact, because of some of those demographic criteria, you'd get an interest percentage point lower. So low interest loan, obviously better than going out on the bond market. But we would have to certainly get an application that scores well enough to get offered those loans. And then other than self-funding, and I think we talked about this a little bit at the council retreat, the pros and cons of self-funding versus low interest loans and other loans. Obviously any direct appropriations would be probably the only opportunity on this project for grant money, other than maybe the small, $500,000 for principal forgiveness through Clean Water SRF.
A quick question.
Yeah.
On the point system, I understand that we didn't score quite well on the actual rate system, but isn't there other ways that we can make up points as far as how old our system is, or in other areas?
There's really strict criteria in the guideline, and there are creative ways. I mean, we've done enough of these that we certainly try to be as creative as possible in the interpretation of those guidelines to apply for points where points may be received. But I think we've really exhausted everything that we possibly could on this. They're just an example. There are some plants that are just right upstream of a burdened receiving water. That's not the case here. And in some cases, DEQ has decided that that's worth a whole lot of points, right? So the projects that fall into that category score well, and projects that don't, unfortunately, can't get those points. The regionalization component, we definitely tracking that with Matt Kelly and team to see where that falls, because there is a possibility that with mergers and regionalizations, there's a chance, the DEQ tends to appreciate those types of things, see the efficiency in them, and score points because of that. So we will certainly seek any opportunity to score points in mergers and regionalization, depending on how things shake out with that other study.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So the 7.5% rate increase is what we're showing the 9257 at, which falls under 6 points, correct?
4 points. So
4 points,
yeah,
okay.
and that's because we're assuming that fall of 25 is going to be the same as fall of 24 and 25. So
Okay.
yeah, it would be above 89 but below 107.
Do we know what the figure would have been, or what those numbers would have come out at if we were looking at it at the proposed original 9% increase, just for the sake of asking what that would have done to that?
Yeah, it would be. I think we did the math at one point. I want to say it's probably about like $93 or $94. So we'd still be below the 107.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
No, good question, because we did look at that. The idea behind that being when the municipality has already raised rates to a point, where it's, really the taxpayers are paying a lot, then they're more forgiving on wanting to give the loan money. Sure. Good question.
Council, any other comments or questions right now? All right. Please continue.
I think that's all I've got for you. Do you have any other questions?
Council, any other comments or questions or for our presenter or for Mr. Sherman?
One, if this is the appropriate time to address it. So in your estimation moving forward, when we look at the future and continuing to figure out what rates are moving forward, if we, like last year, I know, for example, we were recommended to do a 6 and we didn't, and then that caused us to have to look at a 9 this year. And if we don't do the 9, then that causes, it's just continuing. So do you have an estimate if we stick to 7 or drop back to 7.5 this year? Are we going to be looking at a double-digit request? How likely is it that we'd be looking at a double-digit request the next time, since we're continuing to fall behind each time?
It's a very good question. In general, what you said is true. I looked over to Matt because you do have another consultant on board that's doing your rate analysis for you, and they could definitely answer that question.
So that would be a Stantec question.
That is a Stantec question, and I'm not sure, but if we got him online, we do actually have David Hyder online with Stantec. I don't know.
I am here, Matt.
Look at that, just like the wonders of technology. Thank you. I don't know, David, if you heard that question or
yeah,
not.
I did.
Just for the record, David, if you would please, since we don't have you on video or anything, would you mind just stating your name and who you're with for the record?
Certainly. I am Dave Hyder with Stantec, and we've been helping the city for a number of years look at the financials for the utilities.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy to take that question. Yeah, the reality is when we do reduce the increases that are proposed, it does have an impact on the future years. So our preliminary estimates is we probably would need to do some double-digit increases in the coming years.
I was afraid that was going to be the answer.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman.
Hey, David, it's Brandy. Quick question. That question was asked to say, if we don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman Boyette, but you were asking if we don't consider the 7.5%, the likelihood of us having to be double digits, would it be higher? Was that what you asked?
Moving forward. In other words, if we did 7.5 instead of 9 and we fall behind, is that going to eventually get us come next year where we're looking at double digits?
Great. So, David, my question is, even if we decided to do the 7.5 increase, what is the likelihood of us still looking at double digits in the future?
Yeah, so if you were to do, I think the question is, if you were to do the 9%, even with the 9%, I think you're still going to need to do double-digit increases. So the 7.5% doesn't tip you over; it just makes it more, higher increases. But the difference between the 9 and the 7.5 isn't what really tips you over. Given the magnitude of the project and the needs to get revenues up to be able to fund the project, you're looking at double digits, likely regardless of 7.5 or 9%.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So during the Stantec presentation, if I recall correctly, not this retreat, but the one before that, I think that what we were presented with was a 6% year over year was what was necessary. I don't recall, and so I want to be corrected, I don't recall that presentation saying that we would end up in a double-digit situation. Is that just because I forgot that, or is something changed?
I think a lot of this is it's very much dependent on when we come in with the actual numbers as we go through this process. And then we can pick and choose and say, I don't think I want to do that. But there's some basic things that we're going to have to do, obviously, to keep the plant running and to provide additional capacity. But there may be some other things we can do to reduce the cost, and that will be one of the driving factors of what's going to end up driving what our rates will look like. So I think what I'm trying to say is that we have some flexibility there as this basis of design report comes out, and to sort of kind of tailor it. Do we do a bare bones treatment plant, or do we do like the midpoint, or do we do the Cadillac? So there'll be some versions of that we can look at that's going to help drive it. But again, they're going to model, and it also depends on how many grants we get, and maybe some direct, because right now we're modeling it more based on that we're going to finance this 100% on the ratepayers, because there is no guarantee that we'll get funding elsewhere. We hope we do, but we can't guarantee that.
If I may, David, since you have the luxury of being at your laptop, and if you're not at your office computer, by all means say no. But would it be possible for you to pull up the charts that you showed us at our retreat that did show the forecast of when we would need to outlay capital for next improvement, when we would go red in cash flow? That presentation, I distinctly remember it as well, and I don't remember the numbers on it.
Yeah, I am. I am at my work computer, and I can pull up the presentation you're referring to, the board retreat.
I just want to be able to show some confidence and some finality to the conversation, as opposed to spitballing everything.
Sure. Let me get set up here real quick. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I am referring back to the board retreat, and things have changed a little bit in terms of budgets and things of that sort. So, but just for reference, this was what we had talked about. This was the first scenario we had examined, which was with the actual 2% increases that were adopted in 25. What the forecast would look like if we did a 10.5% increase year over year, assuming the capital improvement projects. And so what we demonstrated was that, and this assumes full funding of the capital improvement projects, but this would be basically about a 10.5% increase year over year, so 10.5 in 26, 27, 28. And it did show some issues with debt service coverage. We want to be, assuming we're issuing revenue bonds, we want debt service coverage to be at about 1.25, and all in debt service coverage at least at 1.0. And then ultimately this showed the use of all of your cash to where we dropped negative in the operating fund. So we did another scenario, which was, again, the total capital we're looking at here, about $487 million. The next scenario we looked at was, how could we fix this rate plan to address those issues? So we had, again, the 2% that actually was adopted. We looked at 15% basically for 5 years, and then 7%. That would keep you at that debt service coverage. Again, this is assuming the full capital improvement plan, so no grants. Then we did another scenario. Sorry if I'm moving too fast, but this was scenario 3, where we essentially said, well, if you get 20% grant funding for the treatment plants, both the wastewater treatment plant as well as the water treatment plant, you could potentially get by with 15%, still meeting your coverage, meeting the cash target. And then I believe the final scenario we came up with was, what if we do a move out the wastewater treatment plant so essentially delay construction until 2029. We looked at 12.5% increases over a 5-year period, and that would allow us to meet the debt service coverage and keep the cash balances.
And then, David, just to reconcile with the presentation that we just heard from Hazen, I believe the estimated schedule and budget that was presented to us was assuming that construction would begin in that April of 29 based off of preliminary cost estimates in 25, 26, 75% design, which is all paper at that point, 26, 27, the guaranteed maximum price of in 2028, and then actually finalizing the design and beginning construction between July of 28 and April of 31. So I'm pretty sure that that scenario 4 that you're talking about falls in line with what we're looking at here. I just want to make sure that we're all speaking the same scenario.
Fairly closely, yeah. July 28, which, again, this is an estimate, but just per the table, July 28, so beginning of the fiscal year 29.
Right, okay. So, and for these reasons, Council, we had very difficult conversations then as well about how big the number needs to be, because no one wants it to be anything anything at all. I certainly don't, but I also know that we need to be able to provide safe water and responsible sewer services for our current city as well as the city of 10 years from now. Yes, ma'am.
One question, if you
Go
don't
ahead. Yes,
mind.
ma'am.
So, Mr. Livingston, just for reference, just a brief summary, could you just tell me what the rate increase has looked like, say, for the last 10 years? Can you just briefly educate me on that?
I think if you look back, and there's some, and I would probably defer to Catherine on this a little bit, but I know if you looked at the chart that there was no rate increases for many, many years. And the last 5 years, we've kind of catch up with the average and the norm. Again, trying to reestablish our capital reserves so that we don't have to, so we have a piggy bank that we can draw from to be able to do these repairs. Some of them we'll be talking about tonight, but.
So you're saying you estimate we went 5 years with previous councils not even doing a rate increase is what you're telling me?
There was some, the last 5 years there were some, but before that there was, I think for 10 years there wasn't any rate increases at all. So that's
Wow.
not where you want to be with a utility system. It sounds good, but in reality it doesn't play well.
Council, any comments or questions? David, I appreciate you being able to pull that up to jog everybody's memory on where we are. Any other comments, questions from council right now? Obviously, we'll be diving into this again later this meeting. Hearing none. David, any closing comments from you?
I guess I would just say that one of the approaches that we generally recommend is to try to do this proactively, which the city's doing. We are looking out over a longer term period, and so to the extent that we delay getting our revenues up to be able to meet that future debt service and to fund the capital project, the increases only become more substantial in the future. So I don't think the difference between 7.5 and 9 doesn't break the bank, but the reality is that there will likely need to be multiple years of double-digit increases to allow you to be able to fund these significant projects. And just the magnitude of the projects alone is substantial, and so it's generally we would kind of term these as generational type investments, and so you've been living on investments that were made 30 years ago and or longer, and now you have to make that reinvestment. So, and you're not alone. We see this all over the country, specifically in your region as well, that the investments are really substantial. It's not cheap to expand or upgrade a wastewater treatment plant. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Well, my hair is getting grayer as we speak. So, council, any other comments or questions
Just
now? Yes, sir.
Just one more. So, in your debt service or your financial support for the actual project, it was just loan driven, right? Not grants.
That's right. Well, I'm sorry, if you're talking about the assumptions in this model,
Right.
David can answer.
No,
that.
I'm talking
Oh,
about for yours.
Yeah, so
Do you mind going back to that slide, if you
Yeah,
don't mind? See if Brad let him get his screen taken back over, and then we'll go back to that slide so everyone's on the same page.
So right there, your low interest, the thing, the funding assistance. Yours was just based off loans.
That's, this Clean Water SRF low interest loan, the application that we've been assisting with, it's just for loans. There is an opportunity potentially to get up to 500 per round, up to $500,000 of principal forgiveness.
And you did say because we're a tier 1 community that there are programs that we're qualified for.
So if you meet certain demographic characteristics and your score is high enough, then that puts you in the category of being eligible for the principal forgiveness. So there's other project criteria. It seems a little backwards, but there's other project criteria. I'm going to use that example of being upstream of a impaired water body. That project, because of that, might score well enough, but it might be a municipality that doesn't have those, doesn't meet the demographic characteristics. They wouldn't be eligible for the principal forgiveness. They would just get the low interest loan. And they also may or may, if they don't meet it, they might not get that extra point off the interest rate, which on a big project is, matters. But yeah, this was just talking, so the only, other than the potential $500,000 around principal forgiveness, the only other avenue that we had discussed were direct appropriations.
So on the grant program, I mean, that's because there's not some like a grant tree out there, for these things, but trying to be diligent. How many times can you ask for and be appropriated the $500,000 principal forgiveness, that grant?
You can get up to $30 million is the most you can get in one round.
In one round. And
then 500,000. So you can keep applying until your project is completely funded.
Do you typically get that successful?
It depends on how big the project is, right? So I would say if the project were $120 million, that would take you 4 rounds.
Right.
Right now, we haven't even successfully scored in one round. So it definitely a little bit more difficult to project how many applicants you're going to get in each round, and does the SRF funding program change? But there are projects that given the appropriate criteria, will get funded round after round.
We'll certainly pursue it. I just want to manage expectations, my own included, about how much of this we're going to have to shoulder ourselves, and how much of it may be a low interest loan, how much of it may be grants, how much of it may be direct appropriation. So I appreciate everyone bearing with us as we ask these questions. Council, anything else right now? All right. Oh, yes, ma'am.
You asked.
Oh, wonderful. All right, Mr. Livingston, anything else on this subject?
I don't think so, Mayor.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate you as always.
Yeah.
All right, Council. That concludes item 4.2. Saul, if you'll allow, so that we can go ahead and wrap up section 4 of our agenda. I saw Mr. Gerard walk in. I'm glad that you were able to get through the weather safely. Council, if it's the council's pleasure, I'd like to go ahead and move forward with item 4.1 on the agenda, and go ahead and move forward with our Friends of Seymour update. All right. So with that, Mr. Gerard, if you would. And it's good to know that you have theme music.
Huh?
So over the speakers.
Oh yeah, no, I like to have music when I come in. Thank y'all for, and I apologize for being behind. I was wearing a hospital hat this morning, and anyways, got stuck on the other side of Raleigh. So I do have a little bit of an update for you since our last meeting. In regards to budgets and what's going on in Washington as it pertains to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. So currently, and as y'all can imagine, let me first say this, and I guess you had a night, I hope you put in a plug for us while you were there. Good. But I figured you might. Anyways, the movement in Washington is kind of sporadic, as if y'all all kind of feel the weather and what's going on up there. So there are things happening that don't directly or do not directly affect us in terms of what's going on, but it sort of cogs the wheel and slows things down. But right now,
the things that we requested, and I'll remind you, the biggest was, of course, we still want to maintain the stopping of the divestments, which we were successful, and we want to keep that language in the current discussions for NDAA, but the 2027 stopping of the divestments of the F-15Es. And that's still in there. And then, of course, the big thing was the maintenance dollars. And I talked about that last time, and how important that was, and how the scale was kind of strange. But right now, the House Appropriations Committee has passed in their recommendations some additional funding for 3 more of the new F-15EXs, which is in addition to what they already have approved and what's being paid out. So they've had 3 more additions there, and then also funding a little bit more money for the F-15 just the entire F-15 flight, the accounts of all, which is helpful because that could be additional dollars for maintenance on top of what we've requested, which the number we initially started with was somewhere around $200 million based on some information that we received from the military, or from the Air Force. The House Armed Services Committee, right now there's not a lot going on there except for the debriefings and the things they've had from Air Force. Their biggest thing is they'll start their markups of the current FY26 NDAA in July. I think that's July the 15th. So right now that's kind of what we'll wait to see what comes out of there. I will stop and talk about Representative Don Davis again. I don't know if you watch any of his social media or follow him, but if there's anyone that's a big champion, he certainly has been a huge champion. And he is constantly not just talking about people in our community, but he's also talking about how important Seymour Johnson is, and they're a frontline unit, and this, especially with all the things that are going on in the world, especially in the Middle East. The Representative Davis has kept Seymour Johnson at the front, and reminds people how important Seymour Johnson is. But what he's asked for is some additional funding language for frontline fighter squadrons and military bases that deploy more than 30% of their folks at a time, on an annual time. So that, obviously Seymour's in that bracket, but that's money for military installations that would be additional dollars for those that meet that criteria of employing over 30% of their folks of the time. Moving on to the Senate. Senate is in the process, the Appropriations Committee is in the process of getting debriefs from the military, like the House already has. They're in the middle of those. So Senator Budd, he is in those meetings now, and they're asking the military for the NDAA, all branches of the service, questions about their needs and whatnot. So that's going on right now. The Armed Services Committee on the Senate side, they will start their NDAA markups for the FY26 in July, and they started a little bit earlier than the House. They started on July the 9th. 2 weeks ago today, we FOS Crossroads Strategy staff members from Senator Budd's office and staff members from Representative Davis's office. We had a conference call, and it was basically to talk about what we think will happen in the next couple of weeks in terms of strategy and how we move with things going forward on our request as languages start to develop in these NDAAs once the markups are done. So right now, the strategy is to just kind of step, and Crossroads is doing a great job, both Mark and Sam, on knowing what's going on. They also represent Boeing, and that's a big help and important, and knowing what Boeing's getting funded, and not that that's any secret, but just being we know what's capable of coming out in terms of F-15s. the new EXs. And so maintaining the mission and maintaining the moratorium on the 2027 divestment and the maintenance dollars right now are the three main things that we're focused on. A couple of members of the FOS, the Friends of Seymour, have been to Washington maybe twice since I was last here, and that was really to aid the Senator's office and Representative Davis's office in helping them craft the language in some of our requests. And so that's been helpful, and I think I've mentioned this before. They are not shy about leaning on certain members of the FOS to help them say, hey, this is what we're looking at, this is what we're thinking, this is what we know, what are your thoughts? And that's been real helpful. And of course, we're very fortunate to have a lot of dedicated people with the Friends of Seymour that can answer those kind of questions. So in a nutshell, that's kind of things will start getting a little faster as the languages start coming together on both the House and the Senate sides from armed services. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Council, any comments or questions?
I do have a comment. That's
Yes,
a great
sir. report.
I appreciate it. Great information.
Thank you. Short and sweet, right? No, it's good news right now. I mean, things are going in the right direction. I just wish the world events would not move so fast. Our military here and our friends and family members are often called on when those things start happening in the Middle East. So when you see on the news about the stuff that's happening so far away from home, remember that it's probably somebody you know that's being asked to be involved. So,
And I'll just also offer, late last week, very impromptu, very short notice, the North Carolina Secretary of Veterans and Military Affairs, Secretary Minton Omelette, was kind enough to grant us just a few minutes of her time while she was bouncing in between meetings up in D.C. as well. And Mr. Smith was able to jump on that call with myself and Mr. Livingston. You're really working to build a strong coalition. I know we have other members of this dais as well that is their day job, and we are going to continue to be successful in what we do. And for those listening, just to bring this back home to why it matters, the DSIP grant that Mr. Sherman referenced earlier that we have tried to leverage to be able to make investments in the sewer system, the UV system specifically, is the Defense Community Infrastructure Program. And so the point of that is because we have a base, we qualify to be able to compete for these grants. And we appreciate your all's support. We appreciate the support of the representative and the senator as well. And that's something that we're trying to be more proactive in leveraging. And again, for those that are following along, the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, in addition to it just being a point of pride for us as a community and our nation, don't forget $1.1 billion in economic impact and about $500 million in payroll annually that goes into our community, surrounding communities. And so, our economic development and industrial recruitment teams are very good at what they do. There's no one knocking on the door waiting to come in that's going to bring $1.1 billion in economic impact overnight. And so that's why we have to have a partner that's helping us politically and legislatively go and compete and try to protect this asset in our community, as well as, of course, the men and women in uniform. But I just wanted to kind of bring that back home for everyone who's following along.
That's a huge point, considering what you're faced with in terms of keeping infrastructure and things in place. But having Seymour Johnson here not only is fantastic for Goldsboro, it's for the region, for the region itself. And so, anyways.
Council, any other comments or questions for? Yes, sir.
Well, Ken, thank you for what you're doing, and I know you're working really hard for us, and we appreciate that. Is there anything that you can think of we can be doing individually or collectively as a board? Do you have any recommendations for us at this time?
That's a great question, and I think anytime you have the opportunity, like y'all did last week, and that you have to be in front of someone that you can bend their ear as someone who sells something, I'm always trying to talk to somebody about something. And, you know, I think when you're in some of your meetings here and in Raleigh and in Washington, anytime that you're in front of somebody that would make a difference, I think it's important to talk about directly. I think what you've done as a council in supporting the efforts of the Friends of Seymour and supporting the efforts with Crossroads, those are huge. I mean, where you can most put probably your biggest impact is in what you do financially and supporting both the county and the city and supporting because these things we couldn't do these things without professional help, and you provide a lot of that support. But directly, if I think of something, I'll certainly let you know. But I think what you're doing right now is huge, and you know, and we all want to do everything we can do, and you don't want to take anything for granted. So is that sort of yeah.
Mr. Darden, thank you. Council,
Yep. Thank you all. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
All right, Council, we're following along. I'll tell you what, let's do section 5 of our agenda, and then we'll recess for a quick break before we open the floor for public comment period. If it's okay, Mr. Livingston, let's move forward with item 5.1.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a public hearing for the Economic Development Agreement with Peloton USA in Wayne County. I think at this point in time, I'll give a brief overview. As we discussed, that they're looking for an economic incentive package whereby we would waive system development fees in an estimated amount not to exceed $10,000, and that is the essence of the first public hearing.
All right. So, Madam Clerk, is it possible to, the document has already been distributed with the agenda packet, so we don't need to do that part. So with that, friends, we will open up the floor for public hearing on item 5.1 on our agenda. This is a public hearing to consider an economic development agreement with Peloton USA Incorporated in Wayne County regarding system development fees. Is there anyone to come forward and speak? Second call. This is a public hearing for item 5.1 on our agenda. Public hearing to consider an economic development agreement not to exceed $10,000 of system development fees between Peloton USA and Wayne County. And third and final call, this is a public hearing, item 5.1 on our agenda, a public hearing to consider an economic development agreement with Peloton USA, a large industry tenant that has chosen Goldsboro very publicly these last couple of weeks to work with them. All right, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Council, is there any comments or questions for Mr. Livingston on item 5.1? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move forward with the vote. Move forward with a motion. Is there a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the economic development agreement with Peloton USA, Inc. and Wayne County as presented in the agenda package?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
No second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any debate? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, and then also please note electronically. Is that everybody? Either way, you have the vote by hand, correct? All right, perfect. Here we go, perfect. All accounted for electronically. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everybody. Next, we have item 5.2. Let me scratch this one out so I don't read it by mistake again. Item 5.2, Mr. Livingston, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The second item 5.2 is another economic development agreement between the City of Goldsboro and Wayne County. It's for the properties out at Park East. Essentially, we're in an economic development incentive program with them where we share taxes in lieu of them annexing directly into the city. They've requested, because they have invested approximately $2.5 million in the building of those shell buildings and more in the acquisition of properties, that as part of the agreement, we defer our payments for city taxes in the amount of approximately $2.5 million, which an estimated paid in the range of 5 years for that consideration of that development.
Council, any comments or questions on the document as presented for Mr. Livingston? I'll just simply toss this out there. it is really unique to be able to have a relationship with your county where that you're sharing the ad valorem property taxes. That does not happen very often, and they've invested in the building and the land acquisition. Given that we're splitting half on the tax increase, it is logical. That's a unique situation to be in. So, with that, we will. That's a beneficial, unique situation to be in. So, thank you for that. So, let's open the public hearing for item 5.2. It is an amendment to the Economic Development Agreement. Again, this document was distributed with the agenda packet for public review and council review. Is there anyone to come forward and speak on item 5.2? Second call, is there anyone to come forward and speak on item 5.2? It is an amendment to an economic development agreement between the city of Goldsboro and Wayne County. Yes, ma'am. If you would, please just state your name for the record, and then we'll begin.
Good evening, council. My name is Constance Coram. I live in the city of Goldsboro.
Just 1 second, let me get you started.
Ma'am.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. I'm up here because I am somewhat dismayed at the possibility that you may be possibly changing the zoning from general residential to residential business. Okay, so you're going to change it from residential business to general business. And as Mr. Boyd explained to the citizens a meeting ago, that that would mean that the city would have no boundaries or no decisions as to what could be done with that facility. I also heard the mayor say that there were no residents living in that area. As a past Census Bureau taker, of course, that was one of the areas that I had to survey. And when it was said that there were no residents on that area, on that street, there is population there, and
Are we discussing the zoning hearing from last meeting? Or are we on Ash Street? Or are we discussing the Park East Economic Development Agreement?
We're speaking of the okay, are you saying, so let me clear that you've asked, the person came up here asking for that zone to be changed from a residential zoning area to a business zoning area. Am I not correct in that, Mr. Boyd?
It was withdrawn.
That was withdrawn. That's not what this is.
Okay, then excuse me,
Okay.
because I do want you to know that I am in objection to that rezoning, because there are residents that live in that area.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, for item 5.2, which is related to an amendment to an economic development agreement related to parcels currently right around Park East on the other side of the highway. All right, third and final call. Anyone to come forward and speak on item 5.2? All right, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Council, at this time, is there any further discussion on item 5.2? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Is there a vote to adopt the resolution approving the amended economic development agreement between the city of Goldsboro and the county of Wayne?
So moved.
A motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to adopt the resolution approving the amended economic development agreement between the city of Goldsboro and the county of Wayne. All in favor, please tap and click save, as well as raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. Abstentions do count as yes, just for the record, but we have them right up there. Is there any?
I raised my hand to vote, but it's not popping up on my
Perfect.
iPad.
All right, perfect. So it's 7-0. Perfect. Council, is that an accurate reflection? 7-0 in favor? All right. Madam Clerk, is that stated in the record?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. All right, so we have item 5.1 and 5.2 resolved. Having moved fairly quickly, Council, I'll simply ask y'all, would you like to take a quick recess now? All right, Council, we will stand in recess for until, let's call it 6:50. Is that long enough? 5 minutes? Is 5 minutes enough, or do you want to do 10?
6:50 something.
All right, how about 6:50? We'll stand in recess until 6:50. pull this back to order.
Yeah, that-
I appreciate everybody sticking with us for a little bit.
We got work.
So with that, we will move
I agree.
to our public comment period. Madam Clerk, if you would please. And everyone make sure you've signed up if you're here to speak.
Our first speaker is Natalia Newkirk.
Hello, Mayor Gaylor,
Good evening.
councilmen and women. How are y'all doing tonight? I came before y'all once again, and like y'all said all the time, I've been coming before y'all for at least 3 years now. And when I started, Ham was sitting in your seat. As I've been coming here, I've been coming explaining to y'all about murders that I have either seen with my own eyes, heard about from credible witnesses that was done a part of the murders themselves, or things that come to my inbox. Yesterday morning, I'm in Food Line grocery shopping. As I told y'all last year, my cousin was assassinated in the Food Line, blood cousin. I'm a Langston as well. This woman comes harassing me about information that was sent to me concerning her son killing Adriana Lewis. You told me last year that it was video surveillance of that shooting. You never said if it was a suspect revealed or not, but you said it was video evidence. Miss Taylor said she was told that the hit came from Kinston. At the end of the day, this woman's mother was taking me back and forth to work, Miss Janet Lewis. She deserves justice. Now, this guy ran up on me yesterday while I was on live, the same one that stuck his penis in my mouth when I was 7 years old, and I told y'all about that.
If we could please avoid the
But I told you about that.
Understood, but please, this is a
He
public
came
hearing.
on me on live saying that he's going to shoot me. Now, mind you, Adriana is already dead and gone. Miss Donna Elliott knows me and my family very well, know that Nikki has been calling her. Faquan is doing this to me, Donna. Nikki, come on down here and get him charges pressed on him. But the whole time, Nikki got her children robbing James Bridges' bank account, $13,000. Anything over $10,000 is federal. Nikki comes out of her own mouth, oh, I gave Tim rat poison for sleeping with Georgette. Georgette tells me in 2021, oh, I never been able to forgive Nikki and April because they poisoned me with Clorox and killed my first baby. Murder has no statute of limitations. Then I come to y'all and telling y'all about the young woman who was harassing me behind a man, and I'm sitting here trying to help this man get his brother home because his brother was wrongfully accused and is getting gang raped up there in the prison. Telly Cox Jr. He put an innocent child in the closet and told her to not call 911. His own friend turned the gun on him, and a foreman that is being locked up tells me he seen this man get gang raped, and I told you about this stuff.
Please stop discussing vulgarities. I understand.
This is things that I've witnessed myself, Mayor Gavin. And like I said, I came here because you said that was video. This woman wants to make sure her son has nothing to do with it. We're getting antagonized. Me and my schoolmate getting antagonized because of what's sent to us. If y'all got this information, y'all need to do something about it. This is all I'm saying. Because this case refers back to this stuff right here. My dad was involved with the case of Mike Cox, Tyrone Keyshawn Russell, and I tell y'all Jedediah Hayes and Joseph Hayes Langston killed him. Whether you want to hear the truth or not, it's going to be heard.
Our next speaker is Devonda Sampson. Okay.
Well, welcome. Welcome. Yeah.
Our next speaker is Jerome Jenkins. Okay. You're on the list, so I'm not sure what the next name is. Last name, Thorpes, starts with a T. Thomas, maybe. Okay. The next name is David Craig.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good
evening.
My name is Dr. David Craig. I live in Goldsboro. Let me first say that I'm disappointed in the council as a whole. Because what you are doing is basically basing city policy and ordinance on preliminary information, and you're setting water and sewer rates off of preliminary information. Now, the original estimate for the expansion was 24.5 million. It then increased to 30 million, and now it's in excess of 100 million. What I can tell you is that the Mortenson overall cost construction index for non-residential construction from 2009 to 2025 puts the estimated cost at that same plant expansion at 49 million and some odd change. You are gaining increased revenue, and you're not doing with the revenue what it was supposed to be done with that revenue. Now, you can say, well, this is our job. But if that's the best each of you can do to base these decisions off of preliminary information, then it's not good at all. You have no estimates in terms of what the design would cost. So if you haven't received bids for what the design would cost, how do you know or have any idea what the actual expansion would cost? You got to have the designs approved by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality before you're even allowed to build the plant. Yes, I'm a policy analyst and I am an advisor. I'm going to offer y'all my services. January of 2026, I will help you. You hire people to come in and give all these numbers, and they're not relevant. The city doesn't default on its debt because the numbers are based on speculation. You know it to be the fact, and you know it to be the case. January 2026, I will offer you my services, but I want y'all to do right.
Our next speaker is Constance Coram.
Quickly, I wanted to say that I made a mistake. I did use last meeting's agenda. I came up to say that I'm very disappointed, as Dr. Craig and many of you on this council. I feel like you're taking the diversity out of Goldsboro, North Carolina. What we had of a MLK celebration was not very good. Thursday is Juneteenth. We don't have any time to actually plan anything, and the idea that you all would give us the hub to have an event for free is kind of like an insult. I feel like you're not listening to the people. This young lady just came up with a problem. Maybe not discussed as she may have wanted to, but she's upset. We had Rodney here last time, upset. We still have an individual who was arrested in the jungle. I don't know the name of it. Nothing's been done about it. I don't feel like this council, and I also don't like the idea of being laughed at whenever I say that my councilman is make it the supplies in their store so steep that her own constituents is not able to purchase from it. So it makes me feel that when she makes her decisions, she's making her decisions on personal basis, which concerns me. I say that in 2026, there will be a new vote. And I guarantee you, some of you will not be on this council. We are very dissatisfied. There needs to be a concern about the people that you were elected to serve. And that's all colors of people. And I don't feel like you're doing anything to assist us. We should be considered more. There should be more monies allocated for things that we would like to do, and we don't need the mayor doing our job. We need the mayor to come and visit MLK. We need the mayor to come and visit and be served. I'm just saying that this is hard times. Everybody's stressed out in more ways than you can imagine. You have got to step up your game. If not, I guarantee you, this 5-2 assembly of council, it's time out for that. We are tired of it. And you need to start doing something to pay attention to the people that you claim that you got into office to serve. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Janice Gaines.
Hey, everybody. Evening. The mayor, the city council, I have a question regarding the statement that I made concerning the last water bill increase. So many of our elderly is on fixed incomes, also people living below poverty level. I propose that the city will implement a program that will assist this concern. We have to weigh the good, hoping that a program would benefit the city long term. For example, Do Energy Progress offer a program asking people to help others share the light. No special amount. Even though Duke covers the whole state of North Carolina and the city limits have a population under 50,000, with this being said, I believe the city can put a program with criteria in place. I'm requesting that the city readdress the issue and develop a proposal for this matter. No one organization or programs have all the answers in solving the issue of concern. Since I'm bringing a concern to the mayor and city council, I feel like I can bring a solution in helping and making our city a better place to live. It's easy to have complaints and issue concern, but it's hard, seems like, for people to come together with solutions. I'm not saying any of y'all up here perfect, because you're not perfect. But I am saying I believe in my heart that y'all doing what y'all can do. And see, it's easy to take stumbling blocks of this and that and say this and that. I think y'all doing a good job. I ain't saying you're doing a 100% job, but I think you're doing a good job. You're moving out them old houses. You see what I'm saying? That's a lot. And I know you can't do nothing with money. You got to get the money. You got people that don't want to pay taxes. I'm tired of taxes too. But I know you're going to have to do something to get the city of Goldsboro in order, keep it in order. And Hawassa, you're doing a good job. Don't let nobody sit here and tell you this. Your constituents are the only one that can vote y'all out of there. Y'all constituents. Not me. I'm just one voice. But y'all constituents are the only one that can do it. And Brandy, I want to thank you for that stoplight. Because you, during the years, I've been watching you, but you're getting better and better, and be your own boss. It don't hurt to vote yes with everybody else, and no more will hurt to vote no. Just keep doing what you're doing, sister. Councilman Brandon.
Our next speaker is Nadine McCurchin.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. Okay, I'm in District 1. My name is Nadine McEachern. Okay. And I'm in District 1. I can only speak for you. And you are doing a wonderful job. I just want to tell you, I had 3 more before you, and I haven't gotten done what I needed to get done until I got you. So you keep doing what you're doing. I have seen what you've done. And I'm proud of you because every time you put it on the Facebook, I ride by to see it. And it looks good. I have seen what you've done. I have heard what you have done. And I'm proud of you. You keep being the mayor that you are. And the rest of y'all keep being the council people that y'all supposed to be. We elected y'all to be up here. Y'all be up here. Everybody, you could disagree to agree. And you know, everybody's not gonna agree. But y'all do y'all job. Don't let nobody run y'all down, because y'all's doing good. Y'all ain't busting. Y'all throwing the books at each other. Y'all doing a very good job. And I just wanted to come to say what I had to say about you. And y'all keep up the good work.
Our last speaker, last name Carols.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is in reference to the lady, the first speaker. I am a mother of the person that she's slandering. Now, she spoke yesterday on Facebook. She goes live all the time. But she's spreading rumors that she, as to say, as far as my son, that's a lie. But she spoke that, Mr. Gaylor, that you have a video stating this. So I want to see it.
I'll be real blunt. I don't know what video we're talking about.
Of this murder of the Lewis girl.
I
Okay.
truly don't.
Okay. Well, something needs to be done about this lady. I am sick of it.
That was our last speaker, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, there was a name that we couldn't quite tell who it was. Was there someone else present that signed up to speak?
I don't think so. I think they were just signed up and didn't
Okay.
want to speak.
Okay.
I believe. Anybody else that's supposed to be
Just
on the
checking.
list?
Just checking. If there's someone that signed up, I want to honor the attempt. Okay. So with that, we'll close the public comment period, and we will move forward with the consent agenda. Council, you'll remember that at the top of the meeting, we relocated item 7.10 to 9.2, right? Yeah. And so, Mr. Livingston, if you would please hear any remaining comments or questions on items 7.9 and 7.11, and after which we will ask for a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have your consent agenda, which are standard items, routine considerations. What you have before you this evening is a lot of grant ordinances for projects for grants, like the Trillium grant that we got for the all-inclusive playground, like a grant that we got from Firehouse Subs that improves our revenues. There is one large one which we've taken out of the consent agenda that we'll talk about because of the significance of that one, that we've gotten more federal and drug forfeiture funds, so we add that to our special revenue account. So these are just standard budget amendments that we normally make. I'll just ask if you have any questions about them. Myself or Catherine can answer them for you.
Councilman, any comments or questions on items in the consent agenda?
Yeah, I do have one, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
sir, Councilman.
On an ordinance amending the grant project budget for the Community Relations Special Revenue Fund. It states that, I'm reading the actual ordinance. It says that it is necessary to appropriate expenditures for the Dr. Luther King Jr. Commemoration Program, and this will be funded with appropriate revenue from ticket sales for the breakfast. And I thought we actually said that we was gonna have a line item in there for the actual program.
We did. Do you mind clarifying? Is it just a copy from previous ordinance?
I mean, the revenue that's being appropriated is for the ticket sales for the breakfast. The city did donate money towards the program, and we appropriated that. It should be in the transfer from the general fund. That number that says the 12,000, that's got the 8,500. Is that what you were talking about? So that's already in there. I did that on a previous budget amendment.
Okay.
Yes,
So it's not just the actual program is not predicated on ticket sales. We have a line item for it.
We did.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and the manager had me assign a certain amount. I don't remember right off the top of my head, but he did have me assign a certain amount in the budget for fiscal 26 for
All right.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilman. Counselor, any other comments or questions on items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve items on the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 9, as well as 7.11?
So moved.
All right, motion has been made and properly seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented, items 7.1 through 7.9 and 7.11. Please record your vote electronically. Excuse me.
Who's the second?
Second was Councilwoman Taylor.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, does this count as a roll call vote?
Yes, sir.
All right, so please.
And I'm going to roll call as well.
You would like to do a roll call as well?
I have to do roll call as well.
All right.
But you can still vote online.
All right, if you would please conduct a roll call vote.
Mayor Gaylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones?
Yes.
Councilman Boyette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matthews?
Yes.
Councilwoman Weeks?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
All right, all voting in the affirmative. The consent agenda items are approved. We'll address 7.10 in just a few minutes. So with that, council, again, when we were setting the agenda, we agreed that we would take on new business prior to old business. So with that, let's go with item 9.1. Mr. Livingston, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is was on the consent agenda, but now we're moving it to emergency replacement of McCall's pump station manhole. We have Jonathan here to kind of brief us on what's going on with that and why it's important for us to understand that.
And just for clarification, the item that is now labeled 9.2 is the funding component for the thing that Jonathan is about to brief us on.
That's correct,
or on
Mayor.
which Jonathan is about to brief us, and hence the change in order.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. How's everybody doing? So we do have a issue. This is what we call the McCall's pump station. It's that area right here. This is Miller's Chapel Road. And this is actually the driveway that goes into McCall's off of Miller's Chapel Road. So this manhole 1789, is actually failing on us. I guess the sewer gas over the years has just eat it up, and I've got a picture of it, a screenshot, and then later I've got a video that I wanted to show you, and it kind of gives a good indication of what you hear us talk about all the time with I&I. So this is a good video that shows the infiltration portion of that. But so what we're planning on doing is the 12-inch DIP line here. We're going to do a cured in place on that and kind of get that pipe updated, and the 8-inch right here as well, and also the 16, because they're all ductile iron pipe. They'll have a thin layer of concrete liner on the inside, and that sewer gas, we're afraid, is eat that concrete liner up. And if it'll eat that concrete up, it'll also eat that metal up. So just to kind of preserve that and let that last longer, we're gonna line those as well. This line right here is our main problem. This is actually, that blue line right there is actually the force main from Walnut Creek. It also feeds into that manhole. So what we're going to have to do to set a bypass up, we're going to run a 8-inch line under Miller's Chapel. We're going to do a directional drill. We're going to add a valve here and add a valve here, and it's going to run across the road, under the fence, and directly right into the wet well. So we'll just be able to drop that sewer right directly into the wet well. I've reached out to DOT. I haven't heard anything from them yet, but you know, that is a DOT street. Miller's Chapel Road's a DOT street, so we got to get their blessing before we decide to make any changes on that. So that's kind of what we're, you know, looking at from an aerial view. So this here is the inside of the manhole, and you know, you can see the flashlight right there. So right here is where Walnut Creek's force main comes in. That's an 8-inch line. Down here at the very bottom is the 12-inch ductile iron line. Right over here is the 8-inch line, and then right here below these steps is the 16-inch line. So I wanted to point that out because this right here is actually the hole inside the manhole, and you'll see water dumping in right there. So I'll go to the next thing and it'll show the video, and then you can kind of, just wanted to kind of set the picture before you actually saw the video so you knew what you were kind of looking for, because there'll be a lot of water running. So you can see right there, you can see that water dumping in. You'll see the flashlight, and then you can just kind of see it right there dumping in.
So that's groundwater.
That's groundwater coming in. Yep. So that manhole is 18.5 foot deep. I mean, it's really deep. So the sewer gas is building up in there because there's no way for it to release, and it's eating that concrete manhole up on the inside. This is a lot of what we deal with, especially on our outfalls and stuff, and that's why I was talking about those manholes that are, stuck way up above flood elevation. We need to get those down, and not only do we have that force main to deal with, but right on this side outside of the manhole is a 36-inch driveway tile that we're going to have to take out and replace. There's a humongous ditch right there. So it is a really tough situation. It's a really bad area for us, and it is the worst manhole that could have given in on us. But we got to get it fixed, or it's going to cause problems. It already has caused problems. There's also stone coming in that manhole, and it has actually eaten the impellers up on our pumps. About 2 weeks ago, that pump station, we got high water alarms out there, and that was what it was. There was about two foot of manhole there that didn't have water in it, and that line was backed up all the way. So our distribution and collection guys ran vac trucks out there for 14 hours to get all that pumped out and to get it flowing. Bert's guys, his crew went out there, I think that Monday, and they switched out the pumps, changed the pumps, and it's been working fine since. But we haven't had any really heavy rain yet. If we get a named storm to come in here, I mean, it could just terrorize that place, and we have to replace pumps and electrical and all kinds of stuff. So it's imperative to get this thing fixed. I think our bid came in at $468,000, just because of you got that force main, you got a lot of bypassing to come in. With all that groundwater, you're going to have to do dewatering to get all that, as much of that groundwater as you can, to get a safe hole to work in. So that's just kind of where we're at. Like I said, that was a good representation of a little I&I. You can see the infiltration coming in and what we deal with on a daily basis. So anyway, that's just kind of where we stand. If anybody's got any questions, I'll do my best.
Can you talk a little bit about preventative maintenance? I mean, if we know you're dealing with this all over the place, and we know that some percentage of our capacity is eaten up with I&I.
Right.
No one's blind to that.
Right.
What are we doing to try to tamp that down?
So our crews do go out and they have to camera 10% of our system on a yearly basis. Going back to what I said, those manholes that are stuck way up, 10, 15 feet in the ground, there's really no way for us to get inside of them. So we can't really do any kind of, preventative maintenance on those or do any inspection on those. So that's why, with this I&I committee that we have, one of the projects that we're going to start doing is we're going to start lowering these manholes, get them down to, better elevations where we can actually get inside of them and put watertight lids on them. We're going to start putting vents on to help with that gas, releasing that gas. That hydrogen sulfide is really tough. It's really tough on concrete. When they put that stuff in, 40, 50 years ago, they didn't realize how bad it was going to start eating concrete up. But again, our guys go out, they do a great job, they camera, they document everything. But our major outfalls is really difficult for us, and that's where we have to start doing a better job, and that's what our I&I committee is going to do as far as getting these manholes down and get them to where we can get on a list and actually look at them on a yearly basis.
Council, any comments or questions for Jonathan at this point?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
And I've been meaning to ask this for a while and I always forget, but on the subject of I&I, if you had to say that the worst possible I&I, like a Eureka situation, would be a 1, and 0 I&I would be a 10, where do we lie at guesstimate wise in that scope of where we need to get to for I&I? Because obviously that's a huge concern.
Well, you're never going to have 0.
Right.
You're never going to get to 0%. You have an underground system, especially here in Goldsboro where our water table is so high. I mean, you can, there's parts of the city you can dig down 4 feet and start hitting groundwater. I mean, I think we do a really good job. I mean, if I had to rate it, I mean, we're probably middle of the pack with everybody else. I mean, you know, I&I is an issue not just in Goldsboro. It's not just a Goldsboro issue. It's an everybody issue. But, you know, we are seeing some positive signs on a lot of the work that we've done over the years. I sent out an email the other day to Matt and Kelly. We had a call earlier in the week, and one of our consultants has been tracking our historical flow data, and a lot of the work that we're doing, especially out there around Mount Olive Pickle with fixing all that line and stuff out there, we are seeing a downward trend in our ground. You know,
it's huge.
Yeah, it is huge, and it also plays off of the river level. You know, we have been drier over the last few years. You know, once we get to, what is it, 13 feet, that's when we start seeing a lot of infiltration in our system. So, you know, the river level's been low for, you know, a couple years now, but again, I mean, we're one name storm away from, you know, wet weather coming back in and just terrorizing us.
So anything river level over 13 foot, we're just in it.
Yeah.
I know I was.
Yeah.
So council, as part of item 9.1, there is a resolution as part of the agenda packet distributed for both the public as well as council. It's a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute a contract with Ralph Hodge Construction Company. Mr. Perry, if you would please, can you briefly discuss the contract award process and how that was bid out for this company?
Yeah, so
I may have been serious. Sorry about that.
Yes, all right. Yeah, so because this is an emergency situation, we can just go solicit bids, and we reached out to Ralph Hodge because they are currently working in the city. They're doing the DOT project at Central Heights, so mobilization was going to be lower having them here. Plus, they just did the Stony Creek issue for us and fixed that. So they came in, they give us a price, and because it was below $500,000, we didn't have to go the formal bid route, which, you know, would entail us putting out specifications, drawings, that whole 9 yards, and would have just put us back another 30 to 60 days.
Okay. So council, is there a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute a contract with Ralph Hodge Construction Company to complete this emergency repair?
So moved.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further debate? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Please vote electronically. And then also all those in, actually, let's see if this works out. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes.
I was just counting it. It
Okay.
looks like everybody's
Perfect.
ready.
I was just, oh yeah, thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Perry. All right, so now that we have approved a contract, we need to allocate some money to said contract. So, Mr. Livingston, item 9.2.
Sure. And that's essentially what we're talking about here, Mayor, is the operating budget amendment amount of, I think it was 426 and some change there. So there's really not a whole lot more to discuss there. I think it's needed. Obviously, we don't like to have to make emergency repairs, but we're seeing more and more of those.
And obviously, that would not be executed until the funds are allocated. So, you know, we have very strict controls around that. So, with that, to keep this brief, is there a motion to adopt where'd it go? Apologize. Is there a motion to approve the operating budget amendment under item 9.2?
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor, please vote electronically. We'll take 15 seconds to let everyone get their vote in. Popped up, I voted, it went away. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. All right. Record will reflect it was a unanimous vote. All right, now we will move back up to old business, I believe, making sure I have checked everything. All right. As part of setting the agenda this evening, it was requested that item 8.2 be taken ahead of 8.1. We just simply swapped the order. So with that, we will move forward with 8.2. It's the adoption of an ordinance for utility fees and charges. Mr. Livingston, if you would, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you, on page 145 in your budget packet or agenda packet, you have an ordinance for utility fees and charges. We've discussed this somewhat this evening already, and we've also discussed it at the last meeting we had on the 2nd of January. And the direction of the board was to look at things, look at our capital improvement plan, which we did, and look at ways we could keep still competitive with our grant applications, as you saw tonight with our proposed utility fees. And we've also looked at through the budget process of a lifeline rate. That's something that we're exploring to offset the effect on those that are low end users. By low end, I mean they don't use as much water or sewer, and that helps them, maybe people that are on fixed income or single people. But the issue with that is that we can't implement that. Hopefully, we wanted to implement that this budget year, but we're gonna have to make some system changes in our software. And so that's also budgeted for, by the way, to do that. So we can look at a lifeline rate, which we can talk about more. But because of where we're at right now, the need to continue to build our utility reserve, the need to keep on track with these costs, which at a bare minimum, we know, and I say this lightly, it's an $80 million project. Fuquay Varina did one just a few years back, very, very similar to ours, rather bare bones, and that didn't include any upgrades to their plant that I'm aware of. That was $80 million. So while it may not be like where we're specifically at the exact number yet, we do know that we don't have the money right now to finance these type of improvements through a revenue bond. The only real hope we can get is if we get a directed appropriation from the state for $80 million, and then that would be really wonderful. Then we wouldn't have to worry about rate structures because we'd have the money on hand to be able to completely finance the project. So that's the driver of the utility fees and charges is the CIP, because when you plan for things in the future, it's not perfect science, but you do plan and you make preparations so that when the time comes and you really absolutely have to do it, it's not like you're scrambling. You're ready, you're prepared.
So, council, this has been being discussed now for some months. The conversation has ranged from 12 to 7.5. Mr. Livingston, or maybe Ms. Gwynn, can you discuss the software changes that we could do to be able to do the variable rate structure, what a timetable for that could look like? Do you mind cracking open that conversation just a little bit? And again, Ms. Gwynn, thank you so much for being here this evening. You're toughing it out. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have in the budget an estimated cost of converting this software. We're still in discussions. Matter of fact, I have another demo tomorrow, so we're trying to finalize which software we want to pick to move forward, and we have to have something that works with our ERP system. So our initial timetable is going to be about 12 months with one of the vendors that I spoke with, and for the other vendor, it's probably a little bit shorter than that. So our time frame, what we're hoping is that when we get to the next fiscal year, then we can implement those tiered rates or lifeline rates that the council would determine, and it would help lower that initial, and really probably the bulk of our customers would actually lower their water and sewer bill. Okay.
Council, any comments or questions for Ms. Gwynn on that specific subject? All right, thank you so much. All right, Mr. Livingston, last question. These increases, how does it impact the commercial rates and the industrial rates and all the other fun stuff? How does it all trickle out?
It's across the board, even 7.5%.
All right, council. What's the pleasure of council? We have a motion to adopt the ordinance amending the water rates and sanitary sewer rates for the city of Goldsboro as presented, or is there further discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Question. I do have reservations, not because I don't want to see the future in Goldsboro expand and the water treatment facility expand. But I will ask, do we have an itemized cost list of all the stuff that Mr. Burt talked about tonight, and a total cost of the things that he says that need to get fixed?
We don't have a specific cost, just estimates. That's what they're kind of doing right now. These are based on construction cost of other facilities, what we know we have to upgrade, and mostly it's just, even if it were a best case scenario right now of 80 million, we would still, and I just don't see it coming in less than that.
Well,
we don't have any specific cost estimates. We're just assessing right now.
But do you mind discussing the capital improvement plan as it relates to public utilities?
I don't mind, sir. It's there's not just this. I mean, there's other capital improvement plans that we're doing at the same time with our water plant. Our water plant's in good shape as far as the physical infrastructure. We had an engineering report go out and take a look at things like
Thank you. Go ahead,
like the building and things like that. And so structurally the building's fine, but some of our clear wells and some of those other things that are older. The building itself is, correct me if I'm wrong, Bert, is it 70 years old?
70 plus, yes.
7D?
70, yes. 70.
So we've done some more modernization of the water plant more so than the wastewater treatment plant, and that's one of the reasons why I think they're in a little bit better shape. But the big thing with that is going to be water is going to be a driver of a lot of things, and people are approaching us asking for our water, and so I don't know, Bert, if you got anything to add to that, but the biggest thing is just plant capacity. That's going to be an issue down the road. How are we going to be able to provide water as we grow?
If I may, as a follow-on, and Councilman White, please correct me if I'm interpreting the question wrong at all. How have we come up with the various estimates that are part of the capital improvement plan that I know has been discussed a few times? The general estimates for improvements on item A, B, C, or D, how are those numbers coming forward?
Okay, that we go out and we price those, and the Public Utilities Director and the Superintendent, Rick Davis, are out there. They will price the replacements for each one of those items that they know are near the end of their useful life. And that's what we've done. We put those together in a CIP. It's not so random that we don't know the prices on them. We do that research. It's just we don't always know when the timing is, because it depends on when funding's available. And I guess Bert could tell me, what are some of the bigger ones? Would it be the Clearwell for the water plant?
For the water plant, would be the Clearwell. That plant is functioning well. Our capacity issues are fantastic right now. But like the structure, like Matt was saying, that the tank levels over time, like I said, it's a 70-year-old structure. There's cracks on the side. You can see them weeping. They need to be taken care of. But am I concerned that they're just going to break open? No, but I'm concerned that we need to take care of it. That is what Matt pretty much presented to you folks on that. Now, for the wastewater side, how do I get those numbers for the sand filter? I actually went out to vendors and asked for those numbers. Okay, for instance, that sand filter, to retrofit one of those sand filters is $3 million, and that was just a rough estimate. Okay, same with the belt presses. The belt presses were about and this was in 2020, and I was getting those numbers, so obviously they're probably going to be more. The belt presses were $1.5 million to replace those. At the first time I was doing this, to get those prices before 2019, it was $800,000 to get one of those belt presses taken care of. So you can tell the difference between when the price changed after 2019. It's drastically. It's not just hurting people at home, it's hurting everybody. So those drastic prices are true prices, and probably more than what they are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Council, we're still in the discussion phase. A motion has been made and properly seconded to adopt the ordinance as presented. Is there any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to give an explanation as to why I will be voting no for the increase. I am not opposed to increases. And I really like to hear that we are finally going to try to figure out how we can accommodate some of our bills. Been talking about that since my first term, so it's glad to see it finally coming to fruition. I personally would like to see us lower the rate until we can put something like that in place. I think it shows good faith amongst the residents. So I would have liked for us to have a budget session so we could discuss this out loud as a council to possibly throw out some other numbers. I don't negate the work and the effort that has been done by staff to even get it down to 7.5 from the 9% that was originally proposed. So I do thank you guys for that. I just would like to have seen a much lower number until we can get something in place that will help to ease the blow of the constant increases, because as it was mentioned tonight, the numbers are going to go up. The increases are going to go up. They're going to be in double digits. We've already seen double digits as high as 17.5 before. So that is why I will not be voting yes to support this increase.
Understood. All right. Madam Clerk, correct me. I had in my notes a motion made and properly seconded. You do not.
I do not.
All right. So council. All right. So council, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance as presented?
So moved.
All right. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. And motion's been made and properly seconded by Councilwoman Taylor and Councilwoman Weeks. So now we return to where I thought we were just a second ago. Again, my apologies on that one. The debate piece. Is there any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Just a thought. So looking forward to, we're all looking forward to being able to hear the proposal with the new system of billing to possibly provide some relief for our customers that use little water, less water than others. Would it be worth discussing possibly putting this back on the agenda for another look at the retreat, since that's 7 or 8 months down the road? By then we'd have an update on where we're at with that, and then if we needed to make a mid-year adjustment, to accommodate whatever we find out, would that be worth going ahead and putting that in the air and seeing?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something, this and the where we are in the process with the wastewater treatment plant and all our major utilities is always something that we'll have on the retreat as a upfront primary topic.
Well, and I realize that we'll be discussing it, of course, but I mean, sort of what I meant was, do we need to actually sort of have a consensus that, hey, we're going to take that information that we hear in the retreat, and if it's recommended to us to make a mid-year adjustment to the rate somehow or another, particularly if that system could be implemented early or whatever, would I think that if we had a consensus that said, yeah, I'd be open to looking at possibly a vote to change the rate as necessary mid-year, I wouldn't be opposed to that if everybody else thought that was a good idea.
Well, I don't want to, I don't like to echo others, but, sitting here listening and knowing that the 7.5 and the 9% is not going to make a whole lot of changes, and we're not really sure about the grants and the loans, I would like to see us implement our program first before we do an increase. Also, Catherine and I had talked in the past about a program where we would do pay forward, but we really haven't gotten it together. I didn't meet with you like I said that I would, because there was some other things coming down the pipe. So that is what I would like to see as well. I cannot agree with the increase. I have, spoken with my constituents after the June 2nd meeting, and I have to work with my constituents and what they need.
Councilor, is there any further discussion? Yes, sir.
That does sound great, but I feel like that the reality is, as much as we'd like to do that, the reality is nothing is costing less today than it cost yesterday, and I don't foresee us being able to lower a rate. I mean, what little bit I know from what we've heard, I see I'm just thinking out loud, if we got to the retreat and the finance director says, yeah, we can get this implemented in 30 days, and I'm just making up something here, and we said, okay, well, we're going to implement that program effective on X date, which will keep our existing rate for those folks at this, but then we need to raise the rate moving forward. I think we need to be in a position to possibly consider that if we're looking at trying to freeze it to some degree to protect our folks that can least afford it. Just stopping it is, I think, is a win. I don't see going backwards in today's age and time that nothing costs less today than it did yesterday, which I guess is another reason why maybe we should look at, come to retreat, what do we need to do if there was some way to get that program implemented before FY next year. I mean, obviously she'd be able to come and tell us that. Just a thought regarding the retreat.
I echo the comments on scheduling. Sooner the better. Yeah, sooner the better. All right, council, any other comments, questions before we call the vote? All right, again, the motion is the adoption of the ordinance as presented. Motion is made, properly seconded. Debate has been heard. So all in favor, please vote electronically. We'll see if that is adequate. If we have any glitches. We're missing one. All right, there we go. All right, motion passes on a 3-4 vote. The ordinance amending the rates is adopted. All right, now we'll move to item 8.1. Mr. Livingston, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 8.1 is the adoption of the annual operating budget ordinance, and I'd like to just make a few comments, if I may, about what this budget does accomplish, because going back to things about the retreat, we talked about public safety being a primary issue. Because we've addressed the challenges that we've had in the public safety realm, we now are 100% staffed at the fire department for the first time in I don't know how long. We also just bought another fire engine. By the way, this budget's for another fire engine. So we are starting to recapitalize things. We were at 3 or 4 years ago, we were at 38 vacancies. Now we're at 20 vacancies. So we're slowly chipping away at our vacancy rates and able to retain people more. And that's because we've made public safety and salaries and benefits a priority, and that's this city council. So thank you for that. Another priority that you mentioned was business and economic development and expansion. We've been very fortunate here lately with some great job announcements because of our partnership with WCDA. It's obviously working, and we have a great relationship with them. But we also need to do more for our businesses. We also need to partner more with the Chamber of Commerce. We need to figure out ways to encourage more business to come in. So this budget also sets aside some funding for a plan to do that. Also, for updating our strategic plan, it sets out some funding for surveying our citizens to determine what our citizens want from our government, how they feel we're delivering on our services, everything that we're doing. We want evaluations and input from them. So that's a new venture that this budget's going to find a benchmark for us to do, and where we can grade ourselves and determine where we need to direct our resources in the future. Elimination of slums and blight. We heard some good comments from the citizens that they felt like they'd like to see that. We've heard that before. We have a lot more work to do there, so we've doubled the budget request in there to and fully staffed and funded the code enforcement department. We're going to continue to do that in all districts and even larger. This will help us deal with larger projects, whether it's trailer parks or whatever, that we can come in and eradicate and help remove those slums and blight. This budget also recapitalizes major equipment needs. I mentioned about the fire department. It's also helping to recapitalize a lot of the police department vehicles. These vehicles are beyond their useful life, and so we're starting to see an era where we're starting to be able to recapitalize on a normal level and not have our maintenance costs go through the roof on that. And this recruitment and retention plan, this year was phase 2 of that. For the rest of the employees, last year we did the public safety element of that. So in fairness to the other employees, and also as helping with them with the cost of living adjustment, we're doing a 3% COLA for our employees, and that's pretty much the norm across the state, according to the League of Municipalities surveys. But I think importantly that study also addressed some market areas that we needed to adjust our compensation for. So I thank the City Council for supporting that. Edgewood lease. This is a big initiative for the city. We hadn't had unfortunately, the Herman Park Center was beyond reasonable condition for people to go and participate in recreation activities, and especially for offices for our staff. So we've got an excellent lease worked out with Edgewood to convert that to a new community center with lots of new programming for people. I'm looking forward to that this year. This budget funds that. You asked at the June 2nd meeting about some things that you'd like to see changed in the budget. I'm happy to report that we looked at some things with the help of Kelly and Catherine. We've managed to figure out a way to move some money around so that the Powell bill will be, monies from the Powell bill will be set up in a separate street improvement fund. So we've shifted the cost of salaries and things like that back to the general fund where they should be, and they're not subject to the whims of the legislature. The legislature recently took monies from the Powell bills from all our large cities over $150,000. The bottom line is we have a couple million to work with this year to do some street paving projects. We're going back to the drawing board for next year to look at ways to get more funding towards our streets. We know that we've got a lot of work to do there, and long term we may even do a GO bond if that's the will of the desire of the council for that. And lastly, you asked for an implementation of a holiday bonus. We've done this over the last several years that I can recall. And last year we did it at $400 an employee. We've identified $321,897 in the budget to be able to provide for that, mostly through deferred hirings and things like that, to make that happen for us, and some lap salary. And Catherine's can explain that a little bit more. But those are some of the things the budget does address. It obviously, with $30 million that was cut by me. On the capital end of things, it didn't fund everything, but it funded the major priorities of the department heads, and certainly addressed, I think, the priorities as set out by the city council. There's no budget that's perfect, but our budget was the result of a budget committee that came together, reviewed the budgets. It was a result of staff working together, identifying their priorities, the result of people in my office like Octavius working on the capital improvement plan and trying to say, hey, come on, you need to you sharpen your pencil a little bit more and get these numbers a little bit more reasonable. So we did all those things, and so we feel good. I feel good about the budget. It's a document that reflects the policies and the goals of council and the needs of the department. And it's tough doing this work in this environment that we're in with the costs going up, and so I feel for the people that have to pay more, myself included, whether it's rates or taxes. I don't like doing that, but I also know that it's important that we try to meet our goals and objectives.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. First of all, I am very thankful that I was part of the Finance Committee. I only missed one meeting, and it was a very good meeting. The meetings that I was in, I learned a lot. We did a lot of cutting, but if you pull the notes, if you desire to, I did question the 9%, and I hope that's in the notes. I did question that 9% because I am an advocate for my constituents, and I know that was very high. And having been on that committee, I did advocate for a lot of things that were up there, and I really think the department heads that came before us, and we talked, Beverly and I were on the committee, and we talked, and it was a very good meeting. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of that, because I learned a lot. But I too have to show that I do understand all of my constituents, and there are some things in that budget that I did not agree with, and I voiced it at that meeting as well. So I wanted to clarify that. Yes, I did know that it was a 9%, but I did talk about it, and I did not agree with it. So I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other council comments or questions on item 8.1? Yes, ma'am.
So a couple things. One, I do want to reiterate how disappointed I am in this council for not finding it necessary to have a special allotted time that we could come together as a board to discuss this budget. I'm also disappointed that my request to staff to share additional dates that could be possible for our schedules, that request was not met. As the longest seated member on this council, I cannot remember a time where we did not allocate specific time for us to get together to discuss the budget as a whole. And it's really disappointing because we diminished that opportunity to private meetings with staff and emails and phone calls and however else we wanted to communicate, not all together and not even sharing information amongst each other, just you talk to whoever you wanted to talk to about the budget. And that's not how we should do business, especially in light of transparency. I do want to know, I want to support this budget, but I think moving forward, and this is the reason why I made the suggestion to put the increase in front of the discussion about the budget, is because there was already an assumption that we would approve the 7.5 and it was already included in the budget, and then we were going to talk about utility. I can't support the budget because that 7.5 increase is already in the budget. Moving forward, I would like to see that kept separate because I do support the COLA. I do support the bonuses. I do have a question. When was we had our MAG study, and I can't remember outside of the proposal of what it could look like that staff actually, or even council, made the decision to hit the green light. Because what I noticed is that there were some positions in the budget, and we've hired for a position, and I could have missed it. So if you could share, you don't have to do it right now, but if you can share the correspondence with me where the green light was given to do those type of things. There was a couple positions within the budget that I think we could stand to wait for as we're kind of moving some things out and some people are moving around and some departments are taking on new faces. I think we could have waited for some things there. So I don't know if that's something that can be done now in terms of making a motion to approve the budget with the exception of that, even though we've already approved the 7.5. And I think it's just some wordplay and just playing with numbers and playing with things. I don't want to make it harder on you, Ms. Catherine, and your staff and everybody else that's been working on it. But because that 7.5 has already been included in the budget for approval, I can't support that because I don't support that 7.5 increase. And I just wanted to share why my vote would be no. Unless.
Is there, Mr. Lewison, is there the 8.2 has already been voted on? That is a separate matter. 8.1, is there a way to, say, approve the resolution? Is there a way to amend the resolution to just reflect the general fund components? No. Okay. I was just wanted to see if there was a path.
Well, but what I'm saying is, the assumption was made that we were going to accept the 7.5, and maybe the support was already made clear that we knew that was going to happen. What I'm saying, moving forward, can we keep those things separate, and then we can make one? I'm mind blown at the 16th being the date that we even decided on this, because that was unbeknown to me because we didn't have the allotted time that we normally have as a council to discuss the budget. So what I'm saying is, I believe it can be done. It's just the pleasure if that's what we want to do, because my support, while there are some things I disagree with in the budget, I will fully support that budget, but I can't now because it has already, that 7.5 has already been included before council even voted to approve it. So I'm just asking, moving forward, if we keep those things separate, I'm cool with us seeing what it would look like with the 7.5, speaking hypothetically, but it's written into the ordinance and the memo as if it was already decided on, and now we just have to approve it either with it or without it. Now, maybe I'm not being clear in my explanation, and it doesn't even have to require a response right now. All I'm saying is, I would like to support the budget and show my support for the budget. However, I can't because the 7.5 has already been included in it before we even made the decision that 7.5 was going to be the thing tonight. And we've done that before. So this is not the first time I'm seeing it. I'm just asking, is there a way when we do these increases, instead of putting it in the budget before we vote on it, to leave that space clear, and then once it's decided on, like tonight, we could have easily said, I make a motion to approve the budget to include the 7.5 increase that we just made. But we can't do that. We're going to make a decision on the 7.5 that was already included in it before we voted on it. Maybe I'm not. Y'all got some answers?
Yeah, honestly, is there?
Trying to think about how to answer your question. So in the budget numbers that I have in the actual numbers, that 7.5 is already included in there. So it would still mean that council would have to adjust the budget, and I'd have to come back with a final ordinance that had the numbers that had the 7.5, in it. So
right. So what I'm saying is, instead of having to do the amendment, let's not do that extra work. And if we was to keep it separate, so that means all we would have to do now is first thing in the morning, go in and put that increase in the budget that's already been approved. So we've approved the budget and we've approved the increase. We've just done it separately. So I'm gonna have to approve the budget increase twice, when I'm just saying let's just do it once, but have it as a separate document. And maybe it makes sense to me, but everybody is seeming like it's not making sense to them.
It's done by fund. So it has to be all the annual operating funds together. And then we do the ordinance. The only reason we don't put the rate ordinance in with the budget ordinance is just because it gets confusing. I did that one year and it was very confusing for the council. So I separated.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally understand what you're saying, Ms. Catherine, and we can speak about it more because I know you're not feeling well, and thank you for even being here to discuss this. But I still would like to see moving forward it just be separate, and all we have to do when we make our motion is say approve the budget with the inclusion of the utility rate instead of it already being lumped in it. Because see, now I can't offer my support for the budget, whereas I do support the majority of the things that are included enough to give a yes vote. However, tonight, because it's that utility rate that I already said no to, that I'm still gonna say no to, is included in that budget.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I'm not mistaken, what I think Councilwoman Matthews is saying is that she wants to vote yes on the budget, but she cannot do it with that included. So is there a way to amend the wording? So if there are some council members up here that would like to vote for the budget minus the water issue, that they can do that. Is it possible so that way we can vote on the budget?
Give staff just a second, because I want to make sure we go question by question. Can y'all?
Am I making sense?
Let me make it easy for everybody. We can kill the discussion tonight. I'm just saying, moving forward, I would really like to see that being separate. And now that the public knows why I'm going to give a no vote, I just wanted that to be known. So I'm not saying that I don't support what has been included and the improvements that will be made. I just cannot support it because that 7.5 is already increased. So I don't want my no vote to see that it's not supported. It very much is. I just cannot support the 7.5. And that's a discussion that maybe we can have further on down the line. Tonight, we don't have to do that because this is something we should have done in a budget session that we allocated time as a council to do.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on, just one second. Councilwoman Taylor, did that conclude your question? You'll yield? All right.
Okay.
All right, Pro Tem and then Councilman.
Okay. I like a lot of things in the budget. I don't like the 7.5. But if we vote on the budget without the 7.5 and then add it in, what is that saying? I'm trying to understand.
It may be a matter of it may be a matter of interpretation. I think it's again. I certainly do not want to speak for Councilwoman Matthews. You can obviously speak for yourself. I think that there's I think we're at a conundrum where there are pieces, myself included in this, there are pieces of the overall budget package that I'm a big fan of.
I agree.
There's parts of it that I'm not a big fan of. It's a compromised budget. It's a package. It's a budget package. Overall, the whole thing muddled together into a stew. Can I vote for it? Yes, I can, for the reasons that we've already stated. But and unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of where we are. Is you have to kind of vote on the whole stew, for lack of better term. And we held a vote a few minutes ago on the utility fees. If we wanted, do we want to go with the 7.5? A motion was made, seconded, and the majority voted in favor of the 7.5 as presented. So now we move back up to 8.1, which is the totality of the package, and we have to have a conversation about the vote, and we have to kind of see where we are. Is that a fair restatement of the situation, Council? Yes, sir. Oh, sorry, Councilman White. Councilman White.
Go ahead. You was first. I did see you.
Okay.
Just from a point of clarity, I mean, I think maybe how we got confused was taking, and correct me if I'm wrong, taking an actual vote on the utility rate, because the utility rate is just a component of the entire budget, and we can't do the budget without the utility rate in it because it all fits together. I think that's correct. So I think where the confusion maybe come in was, should we have just asked for consensus on what the utility rate was so we could make a motion in a second and approve to vote for the budget with that utility rate consensus in it? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're only voting on one thing. I mean, that's the budget.
And I mean, you do have to vote on the rate increases too.
Separately. Even though it's part of the budget.
Even though it's part of the budget in the total numbers, yes, it's included in the totals.
Okay, I don't understand I guess I just don't understand where we're at now.
Well, where we are is it's a challenging package, and there's parts of it that I think all of us are in favor of. There's parts of it that we're not. You know, there are pieces of this budget, and I want to give council a lot of credit because council has invested a lot of time of their own schedules getting together to put in their input, and they have.
She just said it didn't.
Council has, and I cannot speak to exactly what conversations Councilwoman Matthews has had. I don't know her exact schedule. I don't monitor it to that degree, but council has put in a lot of time into this, and so where we are is we have a package in front of us. Yes, sir. Please.
I echo the sentiments of I don't like to do that, but I think there's enough that I like in the budget that I would love to vote for it, but there's also a plethora of things in there that I don't like as well. And one being, I just can't see me voting for the total budget with the 7.5 if I disagree with it.
Understood. All right, council, is there any further discussion at this point? Is there a motion to be made either to amend or to approve?
I make a motion that we adopt the ordinance for the annual operating budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year.
All right,
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please register your vote electronically, and we will see if that gets all 7.
Mine hasn't popped up.
Yours has not popped up?
Oh,
Okay,
there it
it
goes.
is. All right. All votes have been registered. Motion passes 4-3. We have adopted an annual operating budget for FY26. All right. Council, I appreciate everyone's involvement in this process. I think that we have put together a good document, and we'll continue to work it. All right. So with that, we will move down to the city manager's report. We've taken care of all other pieces of business on the agenda. Mr. Livingston, your report.
Just a couple things. Tomorrow we have for the deputy wing, I guess the wing commander, operations commander, if I get it right.
Deputy mission support.
Yeah, mission support commander. Colonel Todd Walker's retiring at 10 o'clock, so I think it'd be nice if we could go out there and wish him well. We deferred our tabletop exercise that we're doing for the city to try to make sure we're prepared for the next emergency event. And that's just all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Understood. All right, we will move to the mayor and council member comments. It is the second meeting of the month. As such, we'll begin with Councilman White from District 6. Councilman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have too many things. Just one happy belated happy Father's Day to everybody because we didn't see each other. So I would like to send those happy wishes out. And I would like to congratulate the HBCU organization. They had a banquet on the other evening. And the most impressive thing was they raised $55,000 within three months, I think it was, to help our children to attend those schools. So that was quite a feat. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman, floor is yours.
I just wanted to thank the city manager and the assistant city manager for being available for meetings in the last few weeks as we have been reviewing our budget concerns and allowing me to come and ask questions and you answering those freely. And then the last thing is just words of affirmation for our staff, our city staff. Thank you so much for all the sacrifices you make day in and day out. And we're extremely grateful for all that you do.
Councilwoman, floor is yours.
Just want to remind everybody about UNO and Uplift. We're not just playing cards, we're building community. It's going to be at the WA Foster Center this Friday from 6 to 8. Free food, fun, prizes. So registration is preferred, but it is not required. You can find the link on the City of Goldsboro Facebook page or, of course, my Facebook page. Other than that, District 4, I love you. I don't want to take credit for the stoplight. I did kind of go to staff and word them crazy about figuring out a way that we could keep that intersection and the people that travel there every day a lot safer. So they put their heads together along with their resources and manpower and went out there and made it happen for the not just for the district but everybody that shares that intersection. So I appreciate all the effort from those staff that helped me get that accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Person, floor is yours.
Yes. First, I would like to thank the city manager and Ms. Gwen for allowing me to come and talk and ask questions about the budget as well. And I learned a lot. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate the budget that was put forth. I just could not because of the 7.5. I'd also like to thank the city manager for acting very quickly in my district on the sidewalk. It was very hazardous. Safety, Jamie, thank you so much. I mean, my goodness, I called them in less than 30 minutes. They were there, and they fixed that because someone could have really gotten hurt, and someone did fall, but there was no injury. So I thank you so much for each time that I called, even the branch that was on the sidewalk that you did help me with. Safety is very important to all of us, but to me and in my district. I also would like to thank my constituents that came up and gave me great encouragement. I am in my district every day, but most days on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I pick certain streets that I go on, and I do talk to my constituents, and I am in there talking to them and doing whatever I can. And you can ask the two areas that had foxes. They were very happy that we were able to capture them, not kill them, but move them out of the district. So thank you so much. And thank you for a lot of the constituents in District 1 that allowed me to come and sit down and talk to them about the budget and how they felt and what they could and could not do and the struggles and the challenges that they would have if the increase occurred. And so thank you so much. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
So I just want to talk a little bit about that budget. I know budget time is a sticky subject time, but I would like to highlight 3 things in the budget that I'm quite excited about. One of them is going to be raises for our hardworking city employees. I'm glad they're getting what they deserve this year. And second thing is going to be we're going to get some much needed funded for repairing our streets. Since I've been on this council, one complaint I've heard over and over and over again is how bad our streets are. So hopefully people will be able to see the fruits of the money that we're about to get to spend on our streets. And then another thing is the blight. We've got more money for blight, whether that means demolition or going out and just doing things to make our city something that we can be proud of, something that our children can be proud to call home. Last but not least, I want to send a shout out to all my fellow council members, because there's not a week that goes by that I don't hear about something one of us is out here doing, whether it be advocating for street lights or sidewalks or just all kinds of stuff I hear about on a regular basis. So some people might not think that we're doing stuff, but we are all out here working our butts off to do things. And I just want to let everybody know that I appreciate you and all the time and the hard work that you put into being on this council.
Thank you. Councilman Flores.
As always, thank you to all of our hardworking city employees. This city could not run without you. You're all valued and appreciated. I want you to know that each and every time I have an opportunity to say that. Additionally, hats off to our manager and our finance director and our department heads and all of the staff for the effort that was put forth for this budget. It's difficult sometimes, as we all know. I'm also proud of the fact that when tasked with doing so, that the manager and the finance director was able to go back and accomplish some of the things that we asked for additionally. Like I had advocated to get our employees' holiday bonus back in and not have to discuss that every year, and know that our folks can count on that moving forward. I'd also like a huge thank you with the utility rate. I mean, we were looking at 9 minimum, and you guys figured out how to shave it down to 7.5, which I think is a win, for considering where we're at in the climate that we're in. I know I heard not long ago that at the beginning of COVID, dollar of DOT or money as it relates to construction in that regard will only pay for 61 cents worth of work now. So yeah, everything costs more. So I'm proud of the budget committee. You guys did a lot of legwork to get us to where we were at. And then when we were able to go in, and which I did last year, to sit down with the manager and the finance director with my budget book and my sticky notes and ask questions and advocate for different things. And I think that all played out great. And I think we should all be collectively proud of the budget as it's presented. As I mentioned last week, we pretty much asked all of our city employees other than public safety to take one for the team last year so we could straighten out public safety, and we circled back around just like we said that we would, and took care of everybody else, and not only implemented the pay study, but actually took a look at the things that if we're paying for studies and we're paying to have this information brought to us, it doesn't go back up on the shelf and continue to collect dust. We take it and we do something with it. And this council has done that, as has been mentioned by those folks that spoke before me. We're doing some things to move the needle. You're going to see, some more blight taken care of. You're going to start seeing some streets paved. As I mentioned last week, we're hiring police officers. They got to have patrol cars to drive in. That we are headed in the right direction. And collectively as a group, I'm happy for the work that we did, and I'm happy for all the staff support, because we all in it together and got it done together. And thank you to each and every one of you again. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. So my comments this evening, this weekend full of wonderful events. A fantastic Father's Day breakfast over at the Foster Center. We've got some incredible people in this community. I can't say how much I appreciate being invited and being asked just to simply stop by. The GPD and fire department and Parks and Recreation, which you guys did with the Jeep rally in support of Special Olympics on Saturday. Fantastic event over on Center Street. It looked great, and some pretty impressive Jeeps. Even a Land Rover that I felt like was there just to poke fun at some folks. So, fantastic event. Great job, guys. Keep doing good things in the community. It's already been said. I'm going to say it again. This budget, it has some pieces that you're going to like. It has some pieces that you're going to dislike. The things that I am really, really excited about. It was impressed upon staff by council about moving Powell bill funds directly over to being able to spend them exclusively on supplies and materials, not on salaries. Fantastic. That got built into it. It's good stuff. We were able to impress upon staff the need to be able to do the bonuses as well as the full MAG study. Go ahead and get people caught up with what the market says they're supposed to be at. That's good stuff. It comes at a cost, but you got to have the people in order to actually have an organization. The getting to have a facility over at Edgewood, guys, that's a huge win. That's being able to take a facility that was otherwise going to most likely be sitting vacant for a long time right in the middle of the city, and now it's going to become a crown jewel of the Parks and Recreation system as we're able to get some investment in it. And it's got a wonderful garden right there in the middle of it, and I can't wait to go and poke the bear a little bit with now retired Extension Director Kevin Johnson to say, hey, come do this. Being able to invest in roads, there's the street that I live on in my lifetime, I cannot remember it ever being resurfaced. There's a lot of those around town. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone still listening. It's past time to make some investments in those streets all over the city. And again, we can do this because we did the road study. Mr. Livingston, your department heads, getting your road study in place to be able to say, here's how much it's going to cost, here's where all the red lines are, let's invest some amount into it and start trying to make a difference. The same thing that we're doing with our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We know that we have parts of the city that need additional, or that deserve additional Parks and Recreation capacity. We want to be able to do that, and we're getting a plan in place to be able to do it. We know that there's parts of the city that have been suffering from decline and blight in recent decades, in recent years. We're ready to make an impact on that. Again, it comes at a cost, but it's really important. There's I won't get into specifics. I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder. Then you get into this year being able to directly fund some public engagement efforts through our public information office, as well as Octavius, who's now nodding his head at me. This is really good stuff. Being able to do some proper surveys, some proper community engagement that isn't. It's all over the community, and we're all going to get some feedback we don't enjoy hearing. That's okay. We're also going to get some feedback we need to get so that we can make some adjustments and keep trying to make this city an even better place to be. So, lastly, this is the first budget in a few years. Ms. Gwen, if you want to fact check me, go right ahead. Where we've not made the budget balanced by using general fund. If you want to hold up a number of fingers.
Zero fund balance.
Right. And how many years that you. Right. This first one that since you've been, so we can at least go back that far. We're trying to get this thing to where, and everything that was done was proper, is legal, it's all that fun stuff. But I'm saying you sometimes will balance your budget allocating a portion of general fund, and then knowing that you may collect, and ultimately it works out, and it has worked out. But Mr. Livingston, Ms. Gwen, you've really impressed upon this council the need for true, strong fiscal management, and I think, and I hope, and I think that we are certainly moving the needle in that regard as well, in strong financial management practices. So with that concludes my comments. Probably longer than anyone wanted to hear, but there you go. Now you got them on on video, so you can go back and watch them at your leisure. Mr. Lawrence, you gave me good news earlier that we did not have a closed session. Is that still the case?
No.
No
Closed
what?
session.
No closed session? All right.
Oh.
All right. My man. So with that, council, our next regularly scheduled meeting is in the middle of July, July 14th. Fact check me on that, Madam Clerk. 14th, July 14th. Same friendly place, same friendly time. But I hope everyone enjoys a little bit of a reprieve, having accomplished at least this particular heavy lift. So with that, council entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to adjourn. There's no debate on that motion. So with that, please raise, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, we stand adjourned.